In 2007, the Chicago Blackhawks were the lucky team who got the chance to select first overall at the NHL draft. The prized possession was Patrick Kane. There were some doubts about Kane's size and slender build, but Kane would go on to win 3 Stanley Cups, score countless clutch goals, and arguably become the best American forward of all time. His exact size, 5'10", 175 pounds. Fast forward 16 years later, and the Chicago Blackhawks have another chance to draft a 5'10" generational superstar in Connor Bedard. You see, there's still some people out there who believe that Bedard's height will hinder his impact in the NHL. And while that can be an issue, if you really look a little bit deeper, it's just a crock of On his hockey DB, Connor Bedard's official height and weight is 5'10", 185 pounds. Considering that the average height of an NHL player is 6 feet, Bedard is slightly below average. But regardless, there's still some valid concern as to whether or not it will make him less effective at the NHL level. While only time will tell for sure, all the signs in his game point to the exact opposite. Now, naturally, there are a couple of harsh truths for smaller players who play the game. Hockey by nature is obviously physical, and especially in the playoffs, if you can't keep up with that physicality, you're probably going to have a tough time having any sort of success. As a smaller player, you have to work twice as hard to earn your space, and you have to be extremely smart about how you approach the game. This really is nothing new for Connor Bedard. He has been a smaller player pretty much all of his career, yet he's excelled at every level. If you don't get the hype around Connor Bedard, well, then you're not paying attention. The numbers tell you everything you need to know. This past season, he put up 143 points in 51 regular season games and 20 points in 7 playoff games. But hey, if numbers don't impress you and you aren't sold on the idea that his size won't be a problem for generating offense, well, let's just take a closer look. If you watch all of Bedard's 71 goals last year in junior, you'll notice a trend. First, holy smokes, can this kid absolutely let it fly, but more importantly is how he sets himself up in positions to succeed and bend the game to his terms. At first glance, Bedard may seem one-dimensional. Just stop that ridiculous release and you pretty much halt half of his production. Well, that is way easier said than done because Bedard's game is so much more advanced than that. Some smaller players by nature have trouble penetrating the middle of the ice and being effective without the puck, but not Connor Bedard. Bedard has a knack for knowing when to perfectly time his routes and explode into the open pockets of space so that he can get into the dirty areas. Watch him here engage in a physical net front battle and then pop out just enough to create some space for him to one-time this puck. Despite being undersized, Bedard leverages his speed and craftiness to find creative ways to attack the net. Even in the World Juniors against the top talent his age, watch him take this specific route to work his way perfectly in between 2 USA defenders. It's definitely not the gold standard of defending, but Bedard knows how to find the soft spots in coverage to make other defenders look silly for leaving him seemingly wide open. But why exactly is this important if he can just bomb one from the top of the circle and score virtually every single time? Well, those types of goals off the rush and from range will be reduced at the NHL level. Naturally, goalies are better, defenders are better, systems are better, and the best teams in the NHL defend the rush incredibly well. So as a result, those patented Bedard wristers will naturally convert a little bit less frequently than they did in junior. That's why learning how to attack space in the offensive zone becomes infinitely more important for Bedard. But even when that time and space isn't there off the rush in junior, Bedard excels at this because his timing and hockey IQ are just on a complete other level. You see, you don't have to be big to get into the dirty areas, you just have to be first. And if you aren't first, you have to be willing to put it all on the line to get it back. Usually, Connor Bedard is there first, but he's also willing to get greasy to score his goals. Now, we've seen in these playoffs specifically that things get physical. Guys play mind games, they try and get under the opponent's skin by taking liberties, and if you can't hack it, well, you'll likely be heading home. Of course, when you're a smaller player, these situations aren't exactly in your favor. On top of that, being the first overall pick comes with extra everything. Extra attention, extra coverage, extra cheap shots, extra stuff after the whistle. You get the point. But if you actually watch Bedard in these moments throughout his junior career, he actually welcomes this type of play. He's not afraid to get into a scuffle after the whistle. He actively throws his body around in an effort to be physical. and he certainly isn't afraid to chirp or try to get under his opponent's skin. Despite being a smaller superstar, Bedard leans into the physical part of the game and actually does it pretty well too. Very similar to Sidney Crosby in his earlier days, there's a bite to Bedard's game. Of course, the NHL is a different animal, and only time will tell how Bedard truly adapts to the NHL game. However, based on how he's leveraged his skill at every level, size shouldn't be an issue. The harsh truth for him is that until he does it and proves it in the playoffs, people will just naturally default to his size being an issue. And while they might be right for a period of time, usually the generational superstars find a way to figure it out. Sometimes, even if you have success in the playoffs as an undersized player, people will still find a way to look at your size being a problem in the game. I mean, for some reason, John Scott isn't fully confident that Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield are big enough to succeed in the playoffs, despite literally going to the cup final in pretty much their rookie years. I mean, you definitely need size to succeed in the playoffs, but when you have a player as special as Bedard, you add that size around him to help create more space. Bedard's biggest obstacle won't be his size, but rather it'll be how he deals with the pressure of being the first overall pick. We know the individual skill is there, but to win a championship takes way more than one man. Yet when things go wrong or don't go according to plan, everyone points their finger to the one guy who was supposed to fix all of it. Since 2003, 7 first overall picks have won a Stanley Cup, none of which did it in their first 3 years other than, funny enough, Patrick Kane. The pressure on Bedard in a market like Chicago will be huge, but if he's anything close to the players he's being compared to, something tells me he will be just fine in the NHL. So, with the NHL draft just around the corner, I figured I'd make this video. Let me know your thoughts on Connor Bedard and how many points you think he will get in his rookie season. And do you think that there's somehow any chance he leads a brutal Hawks team to the playoffs in his first year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to learn how to train like Connor Bedard, check out Hockey Training. If you're a hockey player who wants to improve your game, the Hockey Training app and YouTube channel is the best place to be. Armed with drills inspired by some of the greatest NHL players in the world, it is the #1 spot to take your game to the next level, both on and off the ice. They have some great Connor Bedard drills on their platforms too, so if you're interested, I'll leave the links in the description for you to check out. As always, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more NHL breakdowns, make sure you click that subscribe button.